Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the session 2 of the second day of Historia Conference 2021. It's good to have you back here. Now we'll be starting with Tejas and Nayan, who will be introducing the next set of presenters. So I request Tejas and Nayan onto the screen, please.
At some point in your lives, there is a chance you pondered upon your existence. It makes sense that you would do so. One says God gave us life, while another says that we were apes. Is there a right theory? Here we have Hansini and Risheek, a pair of talented, curious minds who love to keep learning and researching about concepts that have intrigued them. The MP of Grade 8 of the Mighty Oak campus, Risheek, is a very open-minded and friendly person who mingles with everyone. He is very helpful and collaborative. To tell you the truth, there is nothing he is not interested in. He is a Carnatic music vocalist, an avid reader, a sports and fitness enthusiast, and an impressive speaker. He aspires to be a singer and a chemist. His hobbies include reading about various topics, playing cricket, coding, and browsing the internet. He participates in many extracurricular activities and competitions such as public speaking, science fairs, and other exams, and has fared pretty well. He excels in his academics and develops a deep understanding of each concept. Hansini is a very knowledgeable, artistic, and approachable person. She is a great thinker and always seeks to find answers to her questions. She is an impeccable orator, an intelligent partner, and a voracious reader too. She is very good at art and loves science. She is very ambitious, hardworking, and straightforward, who has earned accolades and appreciation in speaking competitions. She plays badminton and reads articles in her leisure time and aspires to be a neurosurgeon. One similarity between them is that they are interested in virtually everything and spend time discussing their opinions. Both of them have a mutual understanding. They met each other in the online classes and they thought they would be good partners because of their shared interest in BHP, science, and books. Want to learn more? Please welcome Hansini and Rishik, who are here to present their understanding of human evolution. We wish you good luck.
In our modern and comfortable lives, we have so many devices that makes our lives a bit easier. It can be hard to imagine our lives without them, right? How hard can it be? Just for now, imagine yourself holding a stick or spear and staring at an animal. I know this image is a bit far-fetched, but this is an insight on our ancestors' lives. Hunting was a huge aspect in our history. It helped our ancestors' lives helped our ancestors' lives. It also made them a bit more effective. Because of their efforts and their lifestyle, we are who we are. Hi, I'm Hansini, and this is my partner Risheek, and we're going to talk about our origin story.
Big History combines expert knowledge and research to form interconnected story about the history of the universe, including all of the crucial happenings and their causes and how they related to our lives today. It gives us a clear picture of where we are in this colossal time-space continuum and tells us what may be happening in the future. It involves different disciplines and their involvement and interconnectedness in the compilation of history and covers many uncovered aspects. It shows how complexity increases with Goldilocks conditions, diverse ingredients, and emergent properties at each threshold. And that's how we were able to understand human evolution and how each and every characteristic of ours came to be. What makes humans different from other species? This is our driving question. While we cover different aspects about humans' uniqueness, we'll be answering this question in many different ways, and we'll be broadening the perspective on how we are more diverse compared to other organisms.
As we're learning about our history, we should look at the people who are behind giving this information. I will not discuss about the specific people who are behind it, but the scientific fields that helped us understand this. Can you please go to the next slide? Anthropologists and archaeologists and geneticists helped us understand this, helped us understand more about human evolution. Anthropologists study prehistoric societies and human behavior. They did this in the past. They helped us learn about human evolution by looking at their fossils. They also did this by looking at taking DNA samples of different ethnic groups. This allowed us to learn about different genetic changes over the time. Archaeologists study past human activity by excavating, dating, and interpreting historical objects. In other words, artifacts. They help us understand about our ancestors' journey from Africa to other countries. They did this by looking at analyzing different objects and using their critical thinking skills. And geneticists. And geneticists study different genes and study about how they're inherited, mutated, or activated. They often study the role that genes play in viruses and other diseases. They help us understand about genealogy as well.
This may look really funny. Have you ever thought, where did I come from? Am I related to monkeys? Why am I standing upright? Did you ever think about our relationship with chimpanzees? Though it may sound funny,
Before we fully understand about evolution, we should talk about the origins of this theory. Back in the 1800s, a lot of people thought that God made us. This theory is still evident in the 21st century, but we have other scientific data to prove that we were actually adapted, and there's actually a common ancestor that we had. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck proposed this theory of transmutation of species. It was the first fully formed theory of evolution. He did this in the early 1800s. In 1858, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace published a new evolutionary theory, explaining detail in Darwin's honest origin of the species. Even though this book did not talk about human evolution specifically, it did spark the conversation of it. This book talks about natural selection and how every single species goes through this. Natural selection is basically when different species adapt to a point where they can reproduce and eat and basically become living organisms. And after 32 years, Eugene Du Bois discovered the first Homo erectus, which is the upright man. There are some adaptations to Darwin's theory. In 1968, Moti Kumara introduced this idea that evolution was adapted. He thought that evolution was caused by random genetic drifts instead of being adaptive. This theory is called a neutral theory of molecular evolution. And even though there are some flaws in this theory, people still find it effective even now.
here I'll be speaking about what our early ancestors did, how they lived, and what they ate too. First, I would like to tell you something. There are two reasons why we focus a little more on humanity in big history, but there's a lot more to talk about other than this. The selfish reason is that we are naturally curious to figure where we belong in this huge sequence of events beginning with the Big Bang. We are also responsible for rapid change in the universe. Because of our ability to understand complex topics and communicate, we have caused a lot of technological evolution and change in the climate too. Our unit, the unit that we chose is Unit 6, Early Humans, and this contains Threshold 6, which is collective learning. Collective learning is the ability to retain knowledge in one generation more than being lost in the other generation. When the dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid, mammals prospered, evolving into a great range of species. One group lived in trees and ate fruit. They had hands, stereoscopic vision, and unusually large brains. These are our ancestors, the primates. Our own species, Homo sapiens, evolved around 200,000 years ago. We treat the appearance of humans as a new threshold because we caused highly effective levels of complexity. For this threshold, powerful brains are one ingredient. Because of more neurons, we are able to understand complex concepts and analyze what they mean. The second ingredient required for this threshold is precise and versatile symbolic language. We are able to communicate our thoughts and ideas, and that's how we were able to develop our technology and tools. Finally, because of increasing in interactions between individuals and between communities, collective learning arose. We were able to share our ideas and build upon information given by our elders and improve our techniques such as hunting. And that's how we came to be. So 65 million years ago, catastrophe wiped out the dinosaurs, and we saw the adaptive radiation of a shoe-like ancestor of ours. That would not be your ideal travel partner during a vacation. He would be grunting the whole time. Meanwhile, in Africa, primates continued to evolve, our ancestors, and around 30 million years ago, the line of apes diverged from the old world monkeys. And no, we are not chimps or monkeys. They're like our cousins because our lines of evolution split off from a common ancestor around 7 million years ago. Chimpanzees further split into a separate species, the bonobos. The bonobos. Knowing about this common ancestry tells us a lot about our similarities and our characteristics. For instance, we all have fairly large brains relative to our body mass, and we have depth perception so that we can see where the next branch is. We also have grasping hands so that we don't fall to our deaths from a branch. Many of you may not know this, but human and chimpanzees, who share 98.4% of their DNA, are prone to ganging up, roaming our territory, and beating up unsuspecting foreigners of the same species, and that's not for survival reason. We can contrast that behavior with the more peaceful bonobos, who are female-led. While our common ancestor was more suited to living in forests and seeking refuge from dangers by climbing trees, climate change in East Africa replaced forests with grasslands, woodlands, and savanna, which meant that our ancestors could not climb onto the very less trees and had to run away from predators. And this caused us to develop from the bow-legged stance to bipedalism, which is standing upright with two legs and walking. This also freed up our hands. We know that by the first Australopithecines, around 4 million years ago, our evolutionary line was bipedal. Think about how complicated it was to create the technologies around you. Now ask yourself, if during your lifetime you could never speak to another human being, and how much of the technology could you dream up or build? No matter how smart and creative you are, the answer is very simple, no. In various aspects like literature, sciences, and legal systems, communication of information is crucial. The wonders of human culture are the result of the accumulation of the ideas and creativity of millions of individuals over generations and their communication. Humans are more like network computers with a more or less infinite capacity for memory to expand. Because of how we can communicate and share knowledge, we can tap into a vast information network assembled by millions of humans, whether dead or alive. No one knows everything. Human knowledge is distributed among individuals when necessary and passed on and added by each generation. Early evidences of collective learning can be seen in foraging societies and early humans. Elders passed on hunting knowledge to the younger ones. For example, aiming at the prey, finding out where food is available, and hiding under bushes. When humans were moving to Australia, they would have needed to build upon their knowledge of sea travel, and that's how they would be able to identify and develop great boat building and navigation skills. People learn to attach stone blades to sticks. Hafting is the process of taking stone blades, which are very sharp, and attaching them to wood implements using fibers. This is a combination of two skills. One, sharpening flint and rocks to make them useful for attacking, and using fibers to stick them to wood sticks. This was useful and helped them hunt. Now, we come to a very long lasting debate and which is still ongoing. The classical view of foraging life is best expressed by Thomas Hobbes, who wrote, "No arts, no letters, no society, and worst of all, continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short." He feels that foraging life is not as good compared to civilization because there is less of creativity and entertainment. The lack of wealth disparity in foraging cultures may imply greater equality between social rankings and even genders, since female gatherers appear to be more responsible for majority of food gathering rather than hunting males. From that perspective, life was kind of ruined by the advent of agriculture and later with states. As Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, the first person having enclosed a plot of land took it to his head and to say, "This is mine," found people simple enough to believe him was the true founder of civil society. What crimes, wars, murders, what miseries and horrors would the human race have been spared had someone pulled up the stakes and filled this ditch and cried out to his fellow men, "Do not listen to this impostor. You are lost if you forget that the fruits of earth belong to all, and the earth to no one." This summarizes one of the great debates in the world of political science. Now, it's possible that neither Rousseau nor Hobbes was completely correct, and that private property and agriculture didn't create the glory days or end them. Surveys of excavated remains show that a Paleolithic indication which shows that a murder rate of 10% was present. That's really high. This means that life in the Paleolithic would not be as attractive as we think of it, including the occasional infanticide, and not to mention the death of old age people. When they couldn't keep up anymore, they were left in the wild to die. But how you interpret the lives of early human foragers largely determines your view of history and also the fundamental nature of the human character. Is Hobbes correct or Rousseau? Or are both of them correct? We can think about this for a long time.
Before we learn about the lifestyles of our ancestors, we have to know who our ancestors were. The Australopithecines were a genus of ancient hominids. They possessed a gene that helped us increase the number of neurons. Paranthropus had robust skulls, and when I mean robust, they had gorilla-like breasts. This means they had strong chewing muscles. The Homo habilis is based on Latin word meaning handy. This species is known as a handyman because there were a lot of tools near their skeletons. The name Homo ergaster roughly translates to working man. This is a reference to more advanced tools used by these species. The Homo erectus was the first relative that had human-like proportions. The Homo heidelbergensis was the first hunters of large animals. Neanderthals were a group of archaic people. Because of their DNA, we could resist viruses and bacteria. Homo sapiens are us. We are the modern version of these ancestors. We started agriculture and we had more advanced tools.
Jane Goodall is a primatologist who pioneered the study of chimpanzees in the wild, showing the world how similar chimpanzee behavior is that to of humans, and helping to demonstrate the close evolutionary relationship of the two species. When she was over a year old, her father gave her a stuffed toy of a chimpanzee, and it was a lifelike replica. An early interest in animal life developed in her mind. Later in her life, she wrote her definitive scientific work, The Chimpanzees of Gombe, Patterns of Behavior. She summarized and analyzed the data gathered by herself and others at Bombay. By this time, the data challenged her belief in the inherent goodness of chimpanzees. For the first 10 years, she thought that they were rather nicer than humans. But later onwards, she had to acknowledge that in certain circumstances, such as competition for food, sexual partners, or territory, or under emotions of jealousy, fear, or revenge, their behavior proved as dark and troubling as humans, including acts of warfare, cannibalism, murder, and brutality. But at the same time, chimpanzees often demonstrate mutual sharing, helping, and compassion. And there are a lot of bonds between mothers and children. Mary and Louis Leakey were paleoanthropologists, and most of their discoveries were at Olduvai Gorge, where they uncovered fossils of ancient hominines and the earliest hominins, as well as the stone tools produced by the hominins. They discovered a very old skeleton of a female hominin found which was 3.2 million years old, and they named it Lucy. This helped them understand the lifestyles of the people of that time. Another important thing that we need to notice is bipedalism, which is walking on two legs upright. It is one of the most important and turning points in human history, and it happened 6 million years ago. A lot of researchers speculate that we moved to the grasslands because of climate change, and as I mentioned before, we could not climb the trees and had to run away from predators. Climate change and low food availability could have helped us develop into modern humans. We also lost our fur to control our body temperature in the hot savanna.
Now we will discuss about prehistoric societies. Now, as we all know, we all have jobs in our societies. And their jobs were scavengers, toolmakers, hunters, and fishermen. Scavengers collected food, toolmakers made the tools that they used to hunt, and hunters, as you know, they basically hunted animals to have food. I mean, you can also use foragers to describe them. And fishermen were people who fished, and this practice dated back in Upper Paleolithic age. And cave paintings show that seafood was important for survival. Prehistoric diets consisted of meat, plants, and other things. And when it comes to gathering food, humans like to maximize their gains and minimize their costs. This was the economics behind their diet. And our ancestors, just like us, liked bone marrow, liked junk food. And their idea of junk food was bone marrow, oil-rich nuts, and these were heavily processed. But our ancestors tried to get them. And the simple reason for this is basically because they wanted it, and they just wanted it. And researchers argue that the Stone Age diet fits our genetic makeup. This diet also might have increased our brain size and our gut size. And because of that, we could have processed more meat. In prehistoric life, as you all know, that we mostly forage. And forage is basically when you're trying to hunt or look for food for enlarged provisions. And there is some evidence that they actually had some spiritual beliefs. There's archaeological evidence that states that Neanderthals had a network of various religious beliefs. And this was in modern-day northern Iraq. There was a cave painting that explained this. And also another surprising thing was that the work was divided equally between both genders. It was not based on gender lines. Please continue. As I said before, foraging is basically looking for large provisions and searching for food. We could also say this, it could also be used for hunting and gathering. This aspect occupies our history at least for 90%. We could say that this made us human. As fruit trees in the rainforest became less abundant, our ancestors had to find other ways of finding food. And they might have repeated seasonal movements based on animal migrations. Tribes had at least 15 to 30 people. They would split if necessary. Please continue. Can you please continue? Okay. So the Great Migration was basically about how our ancestors moved to Africa to other places. So first of all, we occupied other regions of the continent. According to Wikipedia, they went through mountains and other difficult physiographic features to go to Eurasia. This happened 90,000 to 55,000 years ago. After that, we moved to the western parts of Europe. This happened 55 to 30,000 years ago. After this, we moved to other parts of Europe, North America, and South America. This happened 30,000 to 10,000 years ago. After that, we moved to other parts of the world, and this happened 10,000 to 1,000 years ago. And there are actually two theories of evolution. One theory suggests that there's the species of Homo sapiens dispersed throughout the globe, and then after that, modern humans developed from them. And another theory, called out of Africa hypothesis, says that modern humans evolved in Africa and then moved to other places. What to learn between them is that this explains the journey of our ancestors. We should learn about human ancestry because it helped us know who we are. And as Risheek said before, that if we know more about us, then we can advance to different technological things and help our lives to get better. And in fact, there is evidence that if we learn about our ancestry, we could actually solve different diseases. And a lot of people might be thinking, how did we get white skin and all? We got white skin because of gene mutations and environmental features. These are some views of human evolution.
So many people have different views of human evolution. Some people think that God created humans as we are today, and some people think that we evolved with God guiding us. And many people also say that God has no part in process and humans evolved because of adaptation. Here's an activity for you, and this may be like a small provocation so that you can get to know about the order of our ancestors. So here are some pictures of our ancestors, namely Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, Neanderthals, Australopithecus, and Homo erectus. So based on the picture numbers, try naming them and organizing them in order of their appearance. I'll give you 30 seconds and then I'll reveal the answers. You can also organize them based on what we have mentioned previously about their characteristics in our presentation, and also based on different characteristic changes that we can see from picture to picture. All right, so the earliest was the Australopithecus, and that is picture number 2. Next, we have Homo habilis, which is picture number 3, and then Homo erectus in picture number 5. And then we have the Neanderthals, which are our close ancestors, which is picture number 4. And finally, picture number 1 is us, Homo sapiens. So throughout this presentation, you may have seen and noticed different vocabulary which has been used. So I'll name a few and what they mean. Collective learning is the ability to share, preserve, and build upon knowledge over time. Evolution is a sequence of events involved in the evolutionary development of a species or taxonomic group of organisms. And foraging is the act of searching for food and provisions. And nomadic means migratory and not staying in one place and moving from place to place. Neanderthals are the extinct robust humans of Middle Paleolithic in Europe and Western Asia. Hominins are all bipedal species in the human line since it diverged from the common ancestor with chimpanzees. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. We would like to thank all of those teachers, friends, and our parents who have guided us and supported us throughout our preparation and have given us feedback on how we need to present. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change, that lives within the means available and works cooperatively, said Charles Darwin, the father of human evolution theory. Here are the credits and resources from which we derived our information. Most of it was from the Big History project, where all of the videos and articles provided us with clarity and we were able to derive our information from there. So, thank you so much, everybody. We hope you like our presentation.
Thank you.
Well, that was a really good answer to those questions in our minds. Why do we exist? How did we come to be? What decisions did we make? And finally, how are we different from other species? They have given us a vivid picture of each important change in our evolution. Hansini and Risheek have clearly understood how early humans lived and how they developed their tools. We also got to know that how scientists connect the dots and find evidence. I'm actually astonished to know that chimpanzees have similar behavior to humans. I finally understand how we are different from monkeys and apes and how we are walking upright today. The key concepts of collective learning, evolution, and foraging have been presented beautifully.
Okay, so now we will be having a short Q&A session for Hansini and Risheek. Okay, so I request the entire audience, the students and the teachers to take the devices and go to www.menti.com and use the code 6294871. I repeat, the code is 6294871. Please grab your devices and ask them questions. Okay, so we have your first question here. What inspired you to join Historia?
I guess what inspired me to join Historia is that we were interested in BHP and we wanted to learn more about like our existence and all, and we also wanted to improve our critical thinking skills as well through this, and present our and improve our communicative skills.
Yeah. So my perspective on this is that I got to know about Historia in 6th grade, where some of the previous Historia presenters talked to us and gave us tips about our PYP exhibition. So from then onwards, I really wanted to participate in Historia. And later onwards, when I came to 7th grade and then in 8th, where we learned a lot more about BHP and big history from the time from the Big Bang to early humans and today. So I felt that maybe we could present our knowledge and also listen to other presentations and understand their perspectives and their understandings of different aspects of big history.
That was really interesting to know. Okay, so the next thing, what is your favorite thing about the
So I guess my favorite thing about this topic is that we learned that we are all connected, and there's like no point of like this of or discriminating each other. So I guess that's one of my favorite things about this topic, and also I get to learn about who I am and where I'm from.
So what I like about early humans and their evolution is that we get to know about every single characteristic of ours, which is bipedalism, depth perception, and how they came to be, how our ancestors were, and how they changed due to climate and adaptation, and how we are ourselves. So, one shocking fact is that um, we are actually all Africans, and like our skin tone changed because of moving from one place to other places in the world, and due to changes in the intensity of the sun, our skin color changed. So that's really shocking. And it's also great to know about how we are related to chimpanzees and how they're kind of similar to us.
That's really amazing. So what were the difficulties you faced?
I guess my difficulties was like that we had to do this online. If we were face to face, it would be a bit easier, and also we did have some differences in opinions, but we did overcome that. And overall, this was a pretty good experience.
Yeah, I agree with Hansini. So online presentation was a limitation, but we were able to overcome that. We also were overwhelmed by the amount of information given in BHP, and we had to compile that and only cover a few topics. So that took a lot of time. And then we had to work on presenting it in a way interesting so that the audience are attracted. So that was some obstacles and difficulties which we faced.
Well, I'm happy you overcame that. So how did you manage your time studies in Historia? How did you balance all of these?
I guess I managed my time by making a schedule and trying to put my priorities right, like put what is more important, and I guess that's one of the ways that I manage my time, and that's all I have to say about this topic.
Yeah, so actually at the beginning, so after we chose our topic, we took some time to get ourselves together and compile our information and all of that. So sometimes we crossed the time that we kept, but we were able to prioritize and we divided our work and so that we could review it later and so that we could reduce our workload, and that's how we managed our time and normal studies.
That's good to know. Well, now because of the time constraint, we will not be taking any more questions, but I would like to thank Risheek and Hansini once again for their amazing and informative presentation.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.